Florida's so-called Don't Say Gay bill is one step closer to becoming law today.
This parental rights in education bill is all part of Florida Governor Ron DeSantis pushing forth Republican priorities during this legislative session that appeal to the base of the Republican Party, what he calls anti-woke legislation.
We've seen instances of students being told, don't worry, don't pick your gender yet, do all this other stuff. They won't tell the parents about these discussions that are happening. That is entirely inappropriate.
Hi everyone, welcome back to my channel. I hope you're doing good. I hope you're doing well. I hope you are enjoying your spring. Is it spring yet? I do know that it was warm enough today that I could go outside in a sweatshirt, so that's improvement. Something that is not improvement though. Currently in Florida, there is a bill that is circulating through these systems, and LGBT activists and allies especially have been talking about this bill because I mean, it's a bill that's attacking LGBT people. Just by the name of the bill, I mean, not the official name of the bill, but the name that activists and critics have coined it, which is Don't Say Gay. I mean, you can kind of tell what the bill's about. In today's video, I want to talk about this bill. I want to talk about the implications of the bill. I want to also react to some, what do they call them, like sponsors of the bill, and see what they're saying about it and what their concerns are, blah, blah, blah. So yeah, that's what we're going to be doing today. I post new videos every week here on my channel, so if you guys are not subscribed, go ahead and do that right now. Go ahead. I'll wait for you. Go ahead. Go ahead. Are you done? Thank you very much. And yeah, with no further ado, let's get right into this video. We have a lot to talk about. So the formal name of this bill is the Parental Rights in Education Act, or bill, or something. It's Parents' Rights in Education, that's the title. And a lot of supporters of this bill claim that the aim of the bill is to let children be children and not to, you know, confuse them with all this LGBT nonsense. Like I said in the intro, the bill has been referred to as the Don't Say Gay bill, which sponsors of the bill do not like. They're so upset that people are calling it the Don't Say Gay bill, but like, did you read the bill? Like, just listen to what the governor of Florida said about it.
Parental rights in education, what critics call the Don't Say Gay bill, is on the Senate floor.
Does it say that in the bill?
Know that you support.
Does it say that in the bill? I'm asking you to tell me what's in the bill because you are pushing false narratives. It doesn't matter what critics say.
Hold on. It says it bans classroom instruction on sexual identity and gender orientation.
For who? For grades pre-K through 3. The idea that you wouldn't be honest about that and tell people what it actually says, it's why people don't trust people like you, because you peddle false narratives. We're going to make sure that parents are able to send their kid to kindergarten without having some of this stuff injected into their school curriculum.
No, it doesn't say gay anywhere. Show me where in the bill it says don't say gay. I mean, Ron's right. It doesn't say don't be gay. Don't be gay. Don't be gay. Ron is right. It doesn't say don't say gay in the bill explicitly, like those 3 words. However, it does. There are a few main components to the bill, but the one that explains the Don't Say Gay, you know, little title that it's been given says the bill will prohibit classroom discussion about sexual orientation or gender identity in primary grade levels or in a manner that is not age appropriate or developmentally appropriate for students. So yeah, I mean, it doesn't say don't say gay, it says you can't have conversations about sexual orientation, which I mean, so different, right? All of this is an attempt to, as the name suggests, protect parents' rights in education. In the bill, it says that it requires such procedures to reinforce fundamental rights of parents to make decisions regarding the upbringing and control of their children. Don't get me wrong, I'm all about parental rights, okay? Like, of course, come on. Parental rights? My favorite kind of rights. I'm kidding, but I mean, I don't have any problem with parental rights. But this whole thing just leads to the question, how are parental rights being violated in education settings? What is being taught to these children about gender identity and sexual orientation that is so inappropriate for them? You know, there are definitely some conversations relating to sexual orientation and gender identity that aren't necessarily appropriate for kids. I don't necessarily think that there should be sex ed talks in kindergarten or anything like that, but that's not what this bill is talking about. It's referring to all discussions about LGBT people. So the fact that a family might have 2 moms or the fact that a family might have 2 dads, that would be, you know, prohibited under this bill. Republican Joe Harding is actually a sponsor of the bill, and it was in an interview in which he talked about, you know, what the bill aims to protect against. And this is what he said.
What are you concerned is happening in kindergarten through 3rd grade classrooms that this bill would stop?
Well, what we have seen here in Florida is we've seen school districts that have curriculum. It's part of their instruction that they teach gender theory and the discussion around gender that comes with that curriculum. We have seen that in school districts in Florida. There's also some school districts that actually have questionnaires that they do with children. And so there is a legitimate concern, and there's been even parents that have reached out, told their story in in committee as well, kind of telling their story of this occurring in the classroom with their kids.
The bill also allows parents to sue schools or teachers who engage in teaching around these topics. What do you say to the critics who say that that creates a chilling effect around having any types of discussions or gender identity or sexual orientation?
So, Lindsay, what the bill does is it allows school districts to sue if the school district is making changes, critical, so quote from the bill, making critical decisions that affect the student's mental and physical well-being.
One of those changes that you're talking about, an example would be a questionnaire where a child has to fill out their pronoun or their sexuality or how they identify, correct?
Yeah, that's a great example. That is one of the examples that we have seen where one of the things, there is a questionnaire where the student has the ability to change their name, to change their pronoun that is used at school. And on that form, they are able to say that they do not want their parents to be engaged. They don't have to say why. The teacher doesn't have to do anything to understand why. They can just simply decide they're going to call the student by a different name at school because that's what the student wants.
So let me get this right. He's complaining about curriculum. I shouldn't be mean. He's complaining about curriculum that includes gender identity and whatever that includes. I mean, Joe, gender identity encompasses a lot of ideas. Okay, you can't just say gender identity. They're talking about gender identity. They're talking about gender ideology. Like, okay, they're acknowledging that trans people exist. Okay. You can tell that people like him and the people he's talking to don't know what gender ideology entails. You know, they think that it's literally just teaching kids that they can be whatever gender they want, when that's not exactly how it works. Like I said, I do support teaching these things in a way that is very age appropriate. There are ways to simplify it. There are ways to talk about LGBT people without making it so explicit. If children can understand that some families have a mom and a dad, why can't they understand that some families have two dads or two moms? What is so inappropriate about acknowledging that some families have two dads or acknowledging that some people are trans? Actually, I'll just let you know, there are a couple reasons why conservatives and whoever is supporting this bill would think that conversations about LGBT people are inherently inappropriate for children. There's two options. One, they believe that being trans and being gay is a choice. Therefore, they don't want their kids or kids in general to be exposed to the idea of being gay or being trans, because then they can choose to be gay and they can choose to be trans, and they wouldn't want that. They're literally afraid that this information about LGBT people is going to convince their kid that they are gay or convince their kid that they are trans. You can't convince anybody to be gay. You can't convince somebody to be trans. That's just not how it works. LGBT kids are constantly shown representations of, straight families, families with a mom and a dad. And all of those LGBT kids still turned out LGBT. You know what I'm saying? Like, seeing those straight representations and seeing those representations of cisgender people did not influence those kids to be gay, because that's not how it works. Like, all of these concerns just seem so misinformed to me. Even the governor, even Ron DeSantis, right? I don't fucking know his name. He just doesn't get gender identity. He doesn't get what being transgender is. He clearly is just so uneducated on the topic. Listen to what else he had to say about this bill.
We've seen instances of students being told by different folks in school, oh, don't worry, don't pick your gender yet, do all this other stuff. They won't tell the parents about these discussions that are happening. That is entirely inappropriate. To get into situations where you're not having the parent, you're hiding things from the parent, you're injecting these concepts about choosing your gender, that is just inappropriate for our schools.
He's literally admitting that he believes that being trans is a choice. He's saying that we should not be teaching kids that they can pick their gender and choose their gender and not to worry about, blah, blah, blah. That's not what's happening. We're not telling kids, you can be whatever gender you want. We're just telling them some people are transgender. Some people are non-binary. Some people are gay. Some people are bi. Nobody's out here saying, you ever tried being gay? You ever tried being trans? It's real good. It's some good stuff. The second reason that people might think that, teaching about LGBT content is inappropriate is they believe that being LGBT is a purely sexual identity. Don't get me wrong, I understand that, being gay or being bi, their sexual orientations, they have a lot to do with, those sexual desires, but there's more to it than that. Okay, not to be super fucking cheesy, but there's love, romance and relationships. It's not all just about sex. Teachers talk about different kinds of families and different kinds of people all the time at elementary school, so I don't understand why talking about LGBT people and LGBT families would be different in any way. Why are families with LGBT parents somehow inappropriate? Get your mind out of the fucking gutter, you pervs. As for the questionnaires about asking kids, the pronouns that they prefer or, the name that they would prefer, I don't really see the big deal, I'll be honest. Every class that I've ever been in on the first day, the teacher, when they're going to take attendance, they're like, okay, if I call your name and you would rather me call you something else, just let me know and I'll write it in my little fucking book. Nobody needed a permission slip for that. Nobody's parents freaked out when, you know, they wanted to be called Sam instead of Samuel. Like, obviously using different pronouns and using like a different gendered name is different than just using a nickname, but honestly, like, what's the danger? What's the harm? It's gonna lead them down a path of transition and they're gonna, you know, be stuck on this route that's gonna... calm down. It's just a name. Y'all be naming your kids some weird ass shit anyway, so like, who cares? Like, even having it be optional to not inform your parents about this change, like, who cares? You know what? I'll tell you who cares. The people that care are the same people whose kids would be afraid to tell them that they're gay, would be afraid to tell them that they're trans. Can we just imagine the message this is sending to young LGBT students, or even just students with LGBT parents, that they aren't allowed to talk about their two dads or their two moms in class because it's inappropriate and it's like not acceptable for school? That their own identities are inappropriate to talk about with their friends? Like, what if somebody in one of those grades was trans? Like, I know that's very, very young, but it's possible. Kids do come out really young. Are those kids just not allowed to talk about themselves? Granted, I don't know when it would really come up in second grade, but like, kids bring up some pretty random topics. It might come up, it might happen. Like, are those conversations allowed, or are those ones shut down as well? Because this bill is very, very vague around what type of conversations, what type of discussions are allowed and what kinds are not allowed. And it's not just like a little, you know, slap on the wrist if you mess up. This bill makes it possible for parents to sue the school if they are, you know, violating any of the terms of this bill. AKA if they allow discussion about gay parents, or if they allow a discussion about a trans person. And a lot of people have been arguing that the writers of this bill kept it vague on purpose. They want people to be afraid to talk about these things, that they want people to be afraid to, you know, have any sort of discussion about it. The bill doesn't specify if it's just about lesson plans, or if it's about, you know, classroom discussions, or if it's about, you know, just like homework, or like literally anything. It's just not specific. So a lot of teachers and a lot of staff are going to shy away from the conversation entirely because they just don't want to be sued. Another major component of this bill is that it requires staff to out LGBT students to their parents. It says that staff must notify parents of critical decisions affecting a student's mental, emotional, or physical health or well-being. It's not ironic. They're framing it as like, oh, we need to let parents know if there's something going on with their mental health or something, when in reality, telling their parents would make their mental health much, much, much worse. Don't pretend you care about LGBT kids. If you're not LGBT, or if you have a super supportive family, you might not understand the weight of this part of the bill. Remember earlier in the video, I mentioned the kids that would be afraid to tell their parents that they are LGBT? It's not for no reason. A lot of parents don't accept LGBT identities and have made it very, very clear that they do not accept those LGBT identities. For a lot of those students who don't have that support at home, they look for it wherever they can find it. In school. Because students or people going through any struggle in life, they need support. And so when LGBT kids can't get support at home, they get support in school from their friends or from teachers or from, you know, guidance counselors or whoever that will offer them support. And if you require staff to out students to their parents, you're not only effectively erasing that safe space for those young students who don't feel safe to tell their parents, it's also going to expose those kids to unaccepting parents and therefore put them in a situation that is mentally exhausting, if not mentally abusive. Studies show that the strongest positive impact on an LGBT student is having supportive adults at school. Students reported having higher IQs, less hostile school environments, less absences from school, and higher self-esteem when they have supportive adult figures at school. The studies also say that these unwelcoming environments affect LGBT people's overall education and employment prospects. They're more likely to feel unsafe at school, avoid school activities, miss classes, skip school, or drop out. Additionally, studies have also shown that inclusive curricula promotes respect and equity for all, which may be helpful considering Florida has no laws protecting LGBT students from discrimination or from bullying. Like, they are really doing everything that they can to make LGBT kids' lives harder. For what? This bill is a direct attack on LGBT students' mental health. It claims to be aiming to eliminate inappropriate content from school curricular. What content? It's been reported that there is no content about gender identity or gender theory, whatever, in Florida's curricular. It's claiming to solve a problem that literally isn't there. So messed up, and I don't even know what to say about it anymore. This bill is expected to become law. It's already passed all the places that it needs to pass until it reaches the governor's desk. And as we saw, the governor is clearly in support of the bill. So yeah, I will put some links down below to like some petitions or whatever I can find. Honestly, if you want to do your part. But yeah, that's pretty much all I have to say on this bill. If you guys like this video, not the bill, this video, make sure to give it a thumbs up down below. Make sure to subscribe if you're not already and you would like to be. And yeah, other than that, I think I'm going to go. So thank you all so much for watching. Keep those kids in Florida in your fucking prayers. But yeah, I will see you in the next video. Bye everyone.